Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today we're going to be unboxing 3 new Paris Corner fragrances I recently got in, including the Pendora Scents Solitude for Men. So let's jump into it. All right, so it is time for an unboxing and first impressions of a recent fragrance haul I got in. As part of a larger fragrance haul, there's going to be a bunch of fragrance haul videos coming out of a bunch of Middle Eastern fragrances in the near future here, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of those. But today we're going to focus on Paris Corner. I got 3 new ones. I got one from the Killer Oud series, I got one from the North Stag series, and I got one from Pendora Scents. Really looking forward to these 3 fragrances. I'm gonna have links down in the description to all these fragrances, including coupon codes to save yourself $5 off both Fragrance Buy and perfumes online if you decide to want to shop with them. So let's quit screwing around. Let's get into them. All right, so our first Paris Corner we're taking a look at is from the North Stag line, and it is Nuf. So I picked this sucker up for $36 at Fragrance Buy, and one of you had recommended that I check out the North Stag line. They weren't really available where I'm from until very recently on Fragrance Buy. I saw this sitting there and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna scoop this up because you guys very rarely steer me wrong. I really appreciate your recommendations. You put me onto a lot of different fragrances, and hopefully you're right about this one. I won't be mad if I don't like it, but I really appreciate you guys. But let's just quit rambling. Let's get into this sucker, see what we're dealing with. All right, so there we have the box presentation of North Stag Nuf. So Nuf meaning 9, Roman numeral 9, just for anybody out there who doesn't understand French, as well as Post Cologne does apparently. Nice box. This has got like a nice thick cardboard to it. It has this kind of cool, like, that is metal. That's like a gold metal kind of medallion on the front there. Kind of like a nice classy added touch to it. All the necessaries on the back, and it does open like so. Nice fold out box, has that fancy ribbon there, has the North Stag emblem sitting in there, nice shimmery gold. So classy presentation with this. I do like this, and like I said, what is it, $37? Liking this so far. I am impressed, Paris Corner, with this box presentation so far. So very, very nice. And here we have the bottle for the North Stag Nuf. Very thick, heavy glass. It has one of those kind of thick bottoms to it that I really enjoy these ones. It just has a kind of like an added classy note to it, kind of gentlemanly. And it has that kind of nice gradient that's working through the actual bottle. You can kind of see it better from the back. So, and a nice kind of, this is more of like a sticker on the front that's not like a metal plate, but it is kind of got an embossed feel to it. So pretty nice presentation with that. I do enjoy that. And this is an extraits de parfum concentration as well. So it's a little bit of a step up from the usual EDPs you get from the Middle Eastern fragrances. Cap on this is probably the cheapest thing in this presentation so far. It does have kind of a plastic feel to it. Has the kind of North Stag deer on the top of that in gold, but a fairly thick plastic. I don't think I could break this unless I really tried. And the atomizer on this, let's see how this goes. Whoa, that is actually a really nice atomizer. Really good distribution on this, nice puffs off of this. So atomizer on this, pretty good so far, but what does this smell like? Right off the jump, smelling this in the air from just testing that atomizer. Really nice, sweet, warm vanilla fragrance coming through right now. Has that kind of resinous benzoin sort of feel to it. Has a really nice kind of vanilla going on to it in the air right now. A little bit ambery, like the Tonka combo in there. Through and through a vanilla style of fragrance. Very warm. It's delicious right now in the air. Like my mouth's starting to water. But let's get this on paper and give this a real thorough sniff, shall we? Yeah, through and through a very nice vanilla style of fragrance. Has that amberiness to it. Has that benzoin coming through. Has that vanilla Tonka, just all of those kind of vanillic sort of notes playing together right now. Really nice, warm, sweet, but not overly sickly sweet. It's just got a perfect kind of balance. This has been said to be a clone of MFK's Grand Soirée. I haven't had my nose on that one before, but people have also said that about Lattafa Pride's Eternal Oud. They have said that it's kind of an MFK Grand Soirée dupe inspired by or whatever. I am getting some similarities to the Eternal Oud with this off of the paper right now. It misses that kind of plum note and some of those kind of florals, that kind of orchids, heliotrope that goes on with the Eternal Oud, but that kind of similar benzoin Tonka vanilla sort of vibe that goes on with Eternal Oud is very similar to this right now. Very nice, sweet, warm, cozy vanilla style of fragrance. So let's let this dry down. Let's come back to it, see how it kind of evolves, see how it kind of settles into itself, see if it changes a little bit. But So far, beautiful vanilla fragrance right now. All right, so we're back with the dry down of Paris Corner's North Stag Nuf. It's been just over an hour, so I've let this kind of settle down, do its own thing. Very, very nice vanilla, amber, tonka, benzoin style of fragrance. Really, really nice. It has a nice kind of warm, smooth sort of sweetness going on to it. It hasn't changed a whole lot from the initial opening. This is a fairly linear scent from that opening all the way to this dry down. In the dry down, it has got a little bit more warmth coming through with it, and it's kind of smoothed out a little bit. It's got like almost a little bit of creaminess that's come through that it wasn't initially there. But overall, it is pretty much the same scent profile that you're getting from the opening to the dry down. The more I smell this now in the dry down though, I do see that kind of Lattafa Pride Eternal Oud, MFK Grand Soiree style of fragrance. So it is very similar to the Lattafa Pride Eternal Oud. I do not own MFK Grand Soiree, as I probably mentioned earlier, so I can't say if it's a clone of or a good clone of, but it is very similar to that Lattafa Pride, but it's very, very nice. Great vanillic sort of accords coming through, nice tonka that comes through. It has a little bit of this kind of like that resinous sweetness coming through. That labdanum just kind of holds everything together. Really enjoyable fragrance, warm, cozy, pretty unisex as well. I think males and females can pull this off. I don't think this leans too feminine for the dudes, but I think this has just got that warm, cozy, smooth sweetness to it that I think the ladies, this would smell fantastic on as well. So overall, really nice fragrance for $37. I think this is pretty good. I think this is going to be a really good performer. This is kind of pushing off the paper pretty good. It is something that's like kind of filled the room when I initially sprayed this one. So I think performance on this is going to be great. We're going to have to get this on skin, give this a full test, give it a full wearing, and I'll come back with a full review. But so far, so good. Really enjoying this one. That's Paris Corner's North Stag Nuf. All right, so the next Paris Corner taking a look at is from the Killer Oud series, and it's Killer Oud Cabana. And I scooped this bad boy up for $32 at Fragrance Buy, and it is an Eau de Parfum concentration. I have a few Killer Ouds in my collection right now, and I like pretty much all of them. There's one that I'm like, the overdose is a little challenging for me, but all the rest of them I'm really enjoying so far, so I'm excited to try this one out. All the Killer Oud series are a clone or inspired by of one or the other homage, and this one is apparently a clone of Beach Hut Man. So let's just break into this. Let's see what we're dealing with, see what kind of fragrance we got here. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Killer Oud Cabana. It's got this kind of like slat fence wood that's got kind of like a little bit of like paint marks on it or something that's in there. So it's got a very kind of beachy sort of vibe going on to it, a very kind of summery style of kind of design to it, I suppose you would call. And it is in the typical kind of Killer Oud style of box. All the necessaries are on the back, and it is a slide off thing. Every single time I unbox a Killer Oud fragrance, it's always crooked. It never sits in the podium properly. There, no, not quite. Sits in this nice little podium, and we have the bottle in the typical Killer Oud style. Nice rounded corners, a nice thick glass to this, has kind of a thicker base to it. Has the iconic tassel that's going on here, adding a little bit of flair, a little bit of pizzazz. Nice heavy metal cap on it, has that kind of unique shape to it, giving it a little bit of extra character, extra pizzazz. So overall, nice bottle presentation as always from the Killer Oud series line, and the box presentation, always nice little slide off cover here. Check the atomizer on this. Decent, it doesn't go too far and it's not too wide, so it's average performing atomizer off this, but it'll get the job done. But what does this smell like? Ooh, so like right off the jump from testing this atomizer, it's got a very kind of nice, masculine, fresh sort of smell. Like I'm getting some like orange blossoms with some nice kind of like earthy wood, some earthiness to it, some bitterness in the air. I'm liking this so far. It's not what I expected. I was expecting this to be kind of like a really citrus heavy, sort of like summer freshy sort of vibe going on to it, but it's got a lot more going on. So let's get this on paper. Let's dig in. Right off the bat, it's got a very green, sort of bitter green sort of vibe going on to it. There's a bit of like an orange blossom that's in there, giving it A little bit kind of a floral touch just to kind of tone down that green bitterness at this moment. And like a little bit of mint kind of poking through, but not as much mint as I was kind of anticipating and I was kind of smelling in the air, but very bitter green forward at this moment right now. And it's quite nice, it's different. Very earthy green. It has like a bit of a cooling nature to it, like kind of like a bit of a spicy coolness to it, but it really has that kind of like green rooty feel to it, and like not a dark rooty like you would get with like some of like, you know, like Encre Noir. This is kind of like a fresh green root sort of going on to it. I think it's the ivy and the gallivanum that's working in here. Really nice bitter green, and it's getting balanced off a little bit with that orange blossom. A little bit of woods coming through. There's a hint of mint in there, but it's not very mint forward. Like I said, it's very bitter green right now, and it has some kind of woods just peeking out from behind. Very masculine style of fragrance. So this is like a very kind of manly man on the beach sort of vibe going on to this right now. This is quite nice. As this is opening up a little bit more, there's a little bit more sweetness that's coming through, and it is toning down that really bitter green that was in the opening. So it is balancing off a little bit now. It was almost a little too bitter green in the opening, but now that this is starting to kind of open up and kind of develop a little bit more, it is kind of toning that down. It is balancing out. I'm getting a little bit kind of like a little bit of that mint's coming through a little bit more, but I'm getting a little bit more earthy sort of sweetness coming through. It's got like kind of a sweet patchouli almost coming through. There's like a bit of like this myrrh that's in the base that's coming through, and a little bit of kind of like some dry woods that are starting to work its way through. So it's kind of balancing it off, giving it kind of like a solid base right now, but it is still got that very kind of green, bitter sort of nature to it, but that sweetness is starting to balance it off. So this is not a sweet fragrance by any means, but the sweetness is just kind of counteracting right now with that green bitterness. Very, very interesting. I am enjoying this right now. I'm curious to see how this is going to dry down and how it's going to develop. So let's skip to the dry down, see what we're working with. All right, so we are back with the dry down of Paris Corner's Killer Oud Cabana. Been just over an hour. Let this kind of settle down, do its thing. And let me tell you, I really am digging this fragrance. Still has that same sort of scent accord going on to it. So like I said, it's got that bitter greenness going on. It had a little bit of the sweetness that was starting to come through, sort of that kind of green style of sweetness, a little bit of the kind of the earthy style of sweetness, and a little bit of that mint. So it has maintained that same sort of scent profile, but I'm getting a little bit more of that kind of coolness coming through. I believe it's from the ivy, the ivy, sorry. The ivy's giving it this nice herbaceous, green, rooty, kind of cool refreshingness sort of vibe to it. It's giving off kind of like an Irish Spring, like a luxury Irish Spring soap sort of vibe going on to it. Like a nice, clean, fresh, but like masculine, green, earthy style of soap. Really, really nice. Oh, I can't stop smelling the paper. This is a really good fragrance. It's very unique. This smells like nothing else I have in my collection right now. This is going to be absolutely fantastic for the spring and summer. I can't wait to get this on skin, give this a full test. And I think this is going to perform fairly well. This is still pushing off the paper pretty good. It's not like a beast projector necessarily, but I think longevity-wise, those notes just seem like they're here to stay. They're holding pretty strong. So, I'm going to do a full review on this one once I get a full wearing of this a few times, really sink my teeth into this. Really, really nice fragrance. Probably one of the top contenders for one of my favorite in the Killer Oud series so far. Really, really good. And for $32, pretty pleased so far, pending performance, but I think it's going to do pretty good. That's Paris Corner's Killer Oud Cabana. All right, last, but certainly not least, I hope, because I haven't smelled it yet, it's Paris Corner's Pendora Scents Solitude for Man. Now I grabbed this bad boy off Perfumes Online for $30, and it's an Eau de Parfum concentration, and it's apparently a clone of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Scandal Pour Homme. So let's figure out what we got going on here. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Pendora Scents Solitude for Man. Very similar graphic design to Jean-Paul Gaultier's Scandal for Pour Homme, so I don't think they're really trying to hide what they're doing here, but overall pretty straightforward, boring looking cardboard box. A little bit of texture to it, but it is kind of a thin cardboard box. All the necessary is on the back, so let's take a look at the bottle. All right, and so there we have the bottle for Paris Corner's Scandal for Man. Again, I don't think they're really trying to hide that they're trying to clone the Jean-Paul Gaultier's Scandal Pour Homme, but it is a nice bottle. It's a nice, thick, heavy glass. It does have these kind of like chiseled off corners to it. cap on this is a cheap plastic, but it is in the shape of a crown, so it's maybe a little tacky, but interesting looking cap to it. But it is a very lightweight, cheap plastic. Like if I was to use my superhuman strength right now, I could crush this with my hand, no problem. So not the highest quality, and it does have that metal plaque on the front with the name of the fragrance. And that is a metal, but it is a very thin metal. But overall, I mean, bottle, not too bad. Box was like whatever. Check out the atomizer on this. Okay, it's a really crappy atomizer, and it's leaking on my hand already. So probably one of the worst atomizers I've come across in a while. So let's just get to what this smells like. So smelling this in the air already and all over my hand because it leaked on it, I am getting a kind of a nice, kind of a fresh aromatic, like a clary sage mandarin combination right now. So it has that kind of citrus mandarin style of sweetness, but it also has a little bit of an aromatic nature to it from that clary sage, a little bit of sweetness coming from that, but there is like a caramel note that's coming through pretty quickly on top of that. But at the moment, it's very fresh in the air, and but it's starting to transition a little bit to that kind of more gourmandy sweetness with that caramel. So let's get this on paper, see what we're dealing with. Let's try not to get it all over everything. Yeah, this is legit a terrible atomizer. So like I said, in the initial opening here, you are getting those aromatics that's coming through, a little bit of that citrus, but you are getting the mid notes coming through pretty quickly, that caramel, that tonka. So it has an opening of kind of this fresh aromatics, but it's quickly kind of moving into that more of those sweet accords in the mid. A little bit of vetiver kind of peeking out from the base right now, but it is being kind of dominated right now by those top notes, that aromatic nature with that mandarin, and that caramel and that tonka starting to peek its way through here. As this is opening up, that tonka is really coming forward a lot more now. It really has that kind of that warm sort of gourmand sort of feel coming through. That caramel is really pushing forward right now. It's got this more of a thickness to it. So those aromatics have kind of gone from being a bit of a light opening, a bit of an airy opening, and it's really starting to come together, getting a little bit thicker right now. And that vetiver base is starting to peek out a little bit more, giving it a little bit of warmth, kind of a dry wood warmth with that hint of the vetiver vibe starting to come through, mixing with those sweet notes. It is quite a nice fragrance. I probably sound just a little bitter right now because that atomizer just really bugged me. I hate a bad atomizer. Even though it's getting a little bit thicker, it still has a bit of a lightness to it. This isn't like necessarily a strong fragrance at this point. It feels a little bit light in terms of just kind of like performance. It feels almost a little watered down at this moment. It's sweet, it has those aromatics, has that kind of wood base to it, but it is a little bit on the light side right now. Let's give this a little bit more time, let it dry down, let it come together, see what we got going on here. It is a very nice fragrance. It has the right kind of level of sweetness to it. It has those nice aromatics in the opening. So we'll give it some time here, let it settle down, do its thing. Maybe in the meanwhile, I'll try and fix that atomizer, but so far it's an enjoyable fragrance. All right, so we are back with a dry down of Paris Corner's Solitude for Man. It's been just over an hour. I've kind of let this one settle down. I spent most of that hour trying to see if I can get this atomizer to work a little bit better. And I don't think I was successful. Horrible atomizer, but I'm gonna set that aside. I'm not gonna let that influence what I think of the actual fragrance, because it's what's on the inside that matters, even if it's really hard to get out of the bottle. Very nice fragrance, very kind of got that, you know, typical mass appeal designer style fragrance sort of scent accord going to it, like a Jean-Paul Gaultier style of fragrance. That caramel and that tonka is more or less the star of the show. Those are the two notes that really come forward, but it did maintain some of that aromatic nature from that clary sage and mandarin that's in the top. So it still kind of has a little bit of that freshness. I'm not sure if I need more time for this to settle down or if it's just kind of changing a little bit on paper and in the air. It might be a little bit different on skin, but it's a little bit warm. It's got that sweetness, that kind of gourmand edge with that caramel and that tonka bean, but it still maintains a little hint of that freshness at the top, but it does have a nice vetiver that kind of sits in the base, gives it kind of that masculine sort of base to it, that kind of foundation to it, because this could easily kind of tilt over to the feminine side because of those sweet notes, but I find the vetiver kind of like maintains the masculine edge to that and provides that foundation for it to be a for-man style of fragrance. So very nice fragrance. It is very enjoyable. A little bit on the synthetic side. It's like a little rough around the edges. It has a bit of that kind of nose tickle kind of cloying from those sweet accords, but not too crazy. And the scent accord is nothing too special, to be honest. Like, this isn't necessarily a mind-blowing fragrance for me at this moment. Very enjoyable, very pleasant, very mass appealing style of scent accord, but overall, it's pretty good, but it's nothing I'm gonna really rant and rave about. I think it's okay. I think the performance might be lacking on this one, so I'll have to give this a bunch of wearings if I, you know, after 100 pumps of this atomizer to get a full wearing of this. We'll see how it goes, come back with a full review, let you guys know how it is, but so far, average fragrance for me. That's Paris Corner's Solitude for Man. All right, so there you have it. That's 3 new Paris Corner fragrances that I got in a recent haul, my unboxing. First impression of those fragrances, I think my favorite of the bunch was that Killer Oud Cabana. A really unique style of fragrance that kind of caught me off guard. I really like that earthy, green, rooty sort of vibe going on to it, with like that balance of those sweet notes going on, that cool sort of nature that happens with some of that fresh spiciness. Really enjoy that one. I can't wait to get that one on skin. Definitely going to be doing a full review of that once I really sink my teeth into it. I want to hear from you guys. Which one of these fragrances sounded like something that you really enjoy? Comment down below. Loved hearing from you guys. Love getting your different opinions, taste profiles. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.